Hey guys, I'm sure you would like to be among the top 2% of successful sports bettors who consistently rake in large amounts of cash, but in reality most people fail. In this video, we're gonna talk about some valuable knowledge and tips you must learn when becoming a sports bettor. One must have an investor's mindset and understand that knowledge is the key to amazing wealth. First, we'll cover the basic do's and don'ts, and then easily try to explain subjects such as odds, margins, and value. Knowledge that every bettor should know. In the next video, we'll talk about money management and how an easy little change can increase your profits by almost 20%, and we'll also cover what statistics to look for when choosing your picks. There is a very good reason why bookmakers are very successful businesses, and it is not because they are charitable or give money away. We're gonna show you how to beat the bookies, explain the misconceptions, and how to stay profitable in the long run. Alright, let's get to the basic but somewhat obvious things not to do. Never bet what you cannot afford to lose. This is the simplest rule to understand but the hardest rule to stick by for most bettors. Every gambler who has hit a winning streak or a losing streak has fallen into the trap and gambled away money they couldn't afford to lose. Next, don't try and be too clever. If somebody tries to convince you that the only way to beat the bookies is using, for example, round robin or Dundee shuffle bets, doesn't mean you have to follow them, especially if you don't know what they are. The bookies have created these more complicated multiple bets for a reason, to take your hard-earned cash off you. Very important, don't bet during TV games. For TV games, betting sites have done the most research and they know that you're going to watch it and most of the people are going to bet on it. Long shots pay high for a reason. 50 to 1 odds is a long shot. If the bookmaker is prepared to give you $50 for every dollar you wager, then you're probably not going to see this horse, tennis player, or football team win during your lifetime. That doesn't mean that they never ever come in, but they don't win often. Bookmaker likes to take 5 to 10% cut from each transaction, and the higher the odds, the more commission they take. Now, beware of hot insider tips. Plenty of websites claim to have information that will, according to them, make you a fortune, and more than often they charge you for it. By all means, read the websites and ask questions, but remember, you need to decide whether to follow the advice or not. Nothing is 100% certain, therefore don't follow any advice blindly. Not even the advice given here. Next, don't bet too many parlays. It's tempting with the high returns, but doing that too often and putting too many games into one parlay is a big mistake. A 5-game parlay is most likely not going to happen for you, and definitely not profitable in the long run. And the last one for this section, importance of specializing. The concept of specializing in one or two sports is one that is growing in the sports betting world, primarily because people are seeing good results from those who do exactly that. Some bettors will concentrate only on a few sports, while others will limit themselves to either professional or college sports. Other bettors will take that another step and focus their attention on several conferences, typically the smaller ones that don't get nearly as much press as the larger ones. Many sports bettors have a hard time believing that there are actually people out there who handicap nothing but cricket or soccer and make a decent living doing so, but they are out there, just as there are bettors who devote all their time and energy into football or basketball. And now to the section where you probably have to start using a calculator. First off, odds. And we'll start with decimal betting odds. Decimal odds are predominantly used in continental Europe, Australia, and Canada. However, they have now largely become the standard at most online bookmakers, with the exception of some US betting sites. This is because they're the most straightforward. The format is simple, numerical representation of the potential return of a bet, which includes the stake amount. The potential return of decimal odds is extremely easy to calculate by simply multiplying the amount you wish to bet by the decimal odds offered. Just remember that the return includes your stake. Let us give you an example. Here we have a simple formula: the potential return equals stake multiplied by odds. If the odds of Barcelona winning would be 1.885 and you would bet $100, then the potential return would be $100 multiplied by the odds 1.885, which equals $188.50. As this includes your original $100 stake amount, the potential profit is $88.50. We'll give you another one. If you placed a $100 bet on Real Madrid with the odds of 4.85, the potential return would be $100 multiplied by 4.85, which equals $485. And remember, it includes your stake amount. Now we have reached the American odds, which are unsurprisingly the default style in America. They start either with a positive or a negative sign, for example plus 138 or minus 150. A negative number indicates what you must bet to make a $100 profit. A positive number indicates how much you might profit if you bet 100. For example, if you bet $110 on a team with American odds of minus 110 and you win, you will make a $100 profit plus your original $110 stake. If you bet $100 on a team with the odds of plus 120 and they win, this will return $120 profit plus the original $100 stake. When using American style odds, the basic match winner market is known as the money line. To calculate the potential profit of positive moneyline odds, you simply have to divide the stake amount by 100 and multiply by positive odds. For negative moneyline odds, you have to divide 100 by the negative odds and multiply by stake amount. You do not have to bet an amount equal to the moneyline number. You can bet more or less with a return to the chosen stake. For example, using the negative moneyline formula above, you could bet 1080 on New England Patriots at minus 108. Just set them in the equation and it'll show that your potential profit would be $10. Now the same with positive moneyline. Let's say you bet $50 on Seattle Seahawks at plus 102, and we'll see that your potential profit is $51. That was the essential about odds. In the description is added a link to an odds converter if you ever need to use that. Usually bookmakers offer the option of viewing the betting odds in both decimal and American formats. Next big and important subject is margins. Margin is basically the percentage that the bookmaker takes from the accepted bets as a profit. But how do we calculate margins? You can calculate margins using the following equation. 1 divided by decimal odds option A and multiplied by 100% plus 1 divided by decimal odds option B and multiplied by 100% again. For example, imagine a hypothetical match between Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal. If Nadal's odds were 1.926 and Federer's odds were 2.02, you could just set them in an equation and get that. 51.92% plus 49.51% equals 101.43%. This is called the market percentage, and the amount by which it rises above 100% is the size of the margin the bookmaker holds over the bettor. This is also known as edge, commission, juice, or vigorish. In this case it is 1.43%. But this was just a two-outcome situation. For anything greater than a two-way market, simply sum the additional options in the same way. Soccer or football, if you live in Europe, is the perfect example. Let's say we have two teams, Manchester City and Stoke City, but now we also have a possibility of a draw. But see, nothing really changes now, other than that we have a new member in our equation, and if we'll add them up, we'll get 106% this time. But remember, margin is everything over 100%, so we'll subtract 100% and 6 is our margin. Now I'll show you how bookmakers actually make money. I'll use Djokovic and Nadal as examples. Let's say 59,000 is wagered on Djokovic at 164 and 41,000 wagered on Nadal at 235. The bookmaker accepts the $100,000. Now if Djokovic wins, then at 164, the bookmaker has to pay out only $96,760, so it gets to keep $3,240 as a profit. The same with Nadal. It has to pay out only $96,350 and will get a $3,650 profit. You'll notice that the bookmaker takes quite a similar profit on both outcomes, and that's what the bookies are aiming for. But it is really hard for a bookie to keep the wagers balanced, and this kind of evenness rarely happens. Now, the same players, same odds, but 50,000 wagered on both players. The bookmaker still accepts 100,000, but now if Djokovic wins, the bookmaker will earn $18,000. Huge, right? But if Nadal wins, it will lose $17,500, and that's a risk a bookmaker cannot take. This is where we as bettors come in. Bookmakers with margins of around 107% will never make 7% on turnover in the long term, but will usually make an amount smaller than this because what the bettors bet on will influence the bookie's odds. Odds move because too much money has been bet on one outcome, giving the bookmaker a large liability should the player win. The margin can be thought of as a buffer. The greater the buffer, the less their potential liability they will have as a result of pricing up incorrectly. But why are margins important for you? Well, when you're looking for a bookmaker to join with, it is important to check the margins. Otherwise you just get cheap odds. The higher the margin, the poorer the value for the bettor. Also, with higher margins, your break-even point will be higher as well, which can be a difference of you being profitable or losing. In the next video, I'll show you how to get around that. Just as a side note, if you're looking for that one bookmaker where to settle down, we strongly recommend you to go with Pinnacle Sports. It has 2 to 2.5% margins compared to the industry average of 5 to 6%. It is the most reliable bookmaker and it has the highest customer ratings in the industry. You can find the link in the description below. And as the last subject of the video, we'll talk about value. It is not about win or lose, it is about value. Value means that the bookmaker's odds are set at a level which the reward outweighs the risk. Whether a bet is value, you have to estimate the winning chance of a side and get the best decimal price for the bet. The math is easier than using the American odds, and just multiply the two. Any result 1 or greater means you have value. For example, you think that a certain team playing at home has a 50% chance of winning, and if the available price for the bet is exactly 2 or greater, it means you have value, because 50% multiplied by 2 is exactly 1, which means fair value. Anything less than this means that you will lose money over the course of the season. Always check the stats and calculate your winning chance, and do not place a bet until you've done that. So how do we sum it all up? Now, that's the hardest and the most time-consuming part, finding the gems. If you're not serious about sports betting, then you can skip this part. We think that the best predictor for the future is to study the past. It is important to know which statistics most influence the outcome of any game. As Warren Buffett says, risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. If you want to learn more about how you can get the best picks in the fastest time possible and based on thorough data analysis, click the link on the screen or in the description below. You can also check out our next video in which we'll discuss money management and statistics.